We like to psychologically attack our listeners.
Yes.
We find that's really helpful for creating a good fan base.
Mm-hmm. It just makes me feel good. Makes me feel good.
Psychologically attack.
Yeah.
I love that.
Hey, hello, and welcome to Spooky Sips, where we put our love of horror movies into a podcast and sip some spirits along the way. I'm one of your hosts, Yvette, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Laura and Brianna.
Hello.
Hey. All right. So we just finished watching the 2000 and was it 22 or 23?
I think 22 last year.
22. Okay. Pearl. If you guys have not seen this movie, it is a wild ride. I highly suggest that you watch it before listening to this podcast. But basically, it's about this young girl named Pearl who's trapped and isolated on her farm in 1918 while she's going through an epidemic. Very similar to what we are or were, you know, there's lots of masks and stuff. But basically, she's put in charge of taking care of her father under the strict thumb of her German mother. And she is an aspiring star. She wants to be on the stage one day.
She has big dreams.
She has big dreams and hopes.
She's a star.
She's a star. And that is what this movie is about. And it basically goes downhill very quickly from there.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. And this is technically a prequel to X, which we have all watched before. I feel like, you know, I don't want to talk too much about another movie while we watch this one, but it did kind of just stand on its own. Like you don't need to have watched X. And I think you could actually watch X after watching this one.
You could.
Yeah. Like if anything, it makes X better. But anyway.
I agree.
And we'll eventually, as we talk through this, we're going to have to go to X because I feel like there's some comparisons that need to be made.
Oh, yeah.
But so the reason why we all wanted to watch Pearl was because we watched X and we're not expecting it to be that good. And we all loved that movie.
Loved.
So good.
So then we were like, well, we got to watch Pearl. So, yeah.
Okay, well, can we just start at the beginning?
Yes.
Because the intro to this movie, like I wrote it in my notes. I wrote, she is a Disney princess.
Yes.
We get Pearl getting glammed up in the mirror, get her little dance sequence, and then she goes to the farm and she's talking to all the animals, you know, about how she's going to make it one day. It is the colors. I mean, it is Technicolor. It is bright.
It is Technicolor.
It is beautiful. Like her entrance really is. I wrote in my notes, like she's straight up a Disney princess now.
Yep.
Oh, totally. I feel like it did not feel like a horror movie intro. It felt like the opening to a drama romance.
Yeah.
And just their home is so beautiful. And yeah, the Technicolor, I feel like it was giving me old Hollywood vibe.
I thought the same thing.
Yes. And it was just the colors. It was so bright. So also I just got a brand new TV where it's giant and the colors are really bright. So I was like, is this just my TV or is the movie made this way?
Oh, nice.
But the movie was made this way because I almost feel like it reminded me of, you know, in The Wizard of Oz, when everything's black and white and then all of a sudden it's super bright colors, like almost just unrealistically bright. That's what it made me think of instantly.
That's what it made me think of too.
Yes. And that was one of the T.I. West, the director, creator. He quoted Wizard of Oz as one of his inspirations.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
He nailed it.
He said he wanted, to quote, he said he wanted a demented Disney movie. And I think he absolutely nailed it.
Nailed it.
Yeah, absolutely. He did a great job.
Even later in the movie, I loved when, you know, Pearl, like it's a little bit later, she's, you know, sad, she's dreaming of making it big and she's looking out her window and then we see a shooting star right after she just wishes to make it on the screen. You know, it's like, yeah, she's wishing upon a star, you know, her dreams, they have to come true. I loved the intro. I love the intro to Pearl.
It was amazing. It was amazing. Because I also feel like, and I'm sure we'll kind of get into this, but for a large portion of the movie, it's like off kilter. Like it makes you, it's not quite right, but it's not scary.
No.
I would say until like the first like 2/3 of the movie, it's not even really like horror slasher scary anything,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but it does make you feel weird.
It's got this almost like anxiety inducing
Yeah.
element to it where it
Yeah.
leaves you feeling very uneasy.
hmm
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So because we were talking about the setting, the opening scene, should we talk about, I know we'd get into it right away, but what we're sipping on?
Oh yeah, I mean, might as well.
Because I
it's
feel
very
like
fitting.
it opens up, you see a shot of this technicolored farmhouse. And then we should talk about, Yvette, you picked the drink.
I did. Okay, so I feel like we've done cocktails recently, and I feel like it'd be good to just go back to a wine. So very like good fitting wine. I found the Farmhouse. It is called Farmhouse. I have no idea who makes it. It's a California red wine. I also feel like California makes sense, right? She has dreams of making it on the screen. I think Hollywood,
Yeah,
Totally.
California red blend.
makes
Honestly,
sense.
it's pretty solid. I mean, it's just kind of like a solid red blend.
Yeah.
Sonoma, California.
And
Lovely.
they also sell it in Utah. So
Yes,
I am
we
super
all
excited.
have it.
Which is
Yeah.
perfect because that's not always the case
No.
with wine. That's
No.
actually usually not the case
Yeah.
with wine.
Okay, I do have to say,
good.
I was kind of surprised how hard it was to find a wine because I thought I had so much to work with. I went to the grocery store with a list. I was like, we could do obviously farms, we could do becoming a star, we could do Hollywood, we could do anything like screen related. Alligators would be great. Pearl would be. I had a list and I was there for probably an hour before I found this. It was on the bottom shelf, tucked back.
It's
And I found it at
good.
the very end.
Yeah. Well done. It was worth the hunt because
It was.
Yes,
really
it was
enjoyed it.
worth it.
It was.
I have a very thick pour tonight because, well, I shouldn't say tonight. It is 2 p.m.
It is.
but
This is an early.
I am coming off of a mimosa brunch and then decided to just split the bottle with my husband. So I have half a bottle in this glass right now.
Oh my gosh.
James
Nice.
got the other bottle in the other room. We'll see how he fares at the end of this
Well, I do
recording.
have the bottle just next to me ready to go. So I won't judge too much. It's also an hour earlier
all
over
right.
here.
That's true.
This is a 1 p.m. wine for me.
It's great. I love it. I
Hey,
love
it's
drinking
Sunday.
red-
It's all right.
I love drinking red wine in the middle of the day.
Yeah, it's great.
Amazing. Yeah.
It's kind of a lighter one, you know. It's a little like
It's a blend.
it's a blend, okay? I don't even know if it is. It doesn't say what it is. It just says red wine. And
I love that.
It's
Just
table
red
table
wine.
red. Mhm.
just a
Still
red wine.
I love that.
Well, it's delicious.
Okay, well, do we want to get into the kills
I mean,
for this movie?
I have the first death, and I don't know if it'll match your guys' first death.
Okay, yeah, I
Oh.
did have kind of a hard time tracking some of these. What's your first one?
Mr. Goose.
Oh,
The first death is
oh my
the
gosh.
goose.
You're
Yeah.
so right. Okay, I'm updating my list.
Yeah.
I'm updating it.
Okay, so
Number
Pearl
one was Goose.
Pearl lives on this farm. Yvette was already kind of talking about how she's like, dancing around, talking to like the cow and all the animals about how she's going to be a star. And then while she's in the middle of this, like, she's just spinning and flowing. While she's in the middle of this dance, this little cute little goose waddles into the barn. And she's been like dancing with this pitchfork.
Poor buddy.
And you just know what's going to happen. All of a sudden, you just see this stab. And then she walks the bloody goose on the end of the pitchfork out to the. So they live, is it a lake or a river?
It's like a little lake, I
Yeah,
thought.
like a lake or a swamp, even.
Yeah, like almost a swamp, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's filled with alligators. And she just feeds the goose to, what's the alligator's name?
Theta?
Theta.
What is it? Beta?
Theta.
Yeah.
Theda.
Theta.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she
I only know because I listened to it with subtitles.
I did too, but I already forgot.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the first death. What I had was Mr. Goose.
That's it. Yeah. No, that's
You're right.
We need to take a moment for Mr. Goose.
Yep.
Mhm. Poor thing.
It's so sad.
Nothing wrong.
Okay, so for first, okay, I did have an attempted murder. I feel like because we have to talk about it, where Pearl rolls her dad back over to the swamp and calls Theta again.
Mm-hmm.
She's so close to pushing him over when mom stops. Yeah, she's ready.
Like, she's right there.
She's saying her goodbyes. She's like, okay, like, you need to go. I've had enough. It's my time. Just going to feed you the skater really quick.
Yeah.
Well, because we already kind of talked about they're in this middle of the pandemic. So it's like the 1918 Spanish flu. And they kind of have gotten to the fact where, so Pearl's dad got the flu and it basically makes him catatonic.
Yeah.
He's in this wheelchair. He can eat, but he can't even really talk. There's this one really upsetting scene where Pearl is responsible for bathing him.
They bathe together way too often for my comfort.
She's like taking this bath in front of him and it's like very just sexually charged.
Yeah.
And like the poor dad has no choice. He's just sitting there like, just to kind of watch her as she's bathing and like opening and flicking her legs around. And it's very upsetting.
It is.
It's upsetting.
But yeah, so that's the first attempted death. But then very strict German mom comes and finds her and is like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah. So we interrupted then. But then the first, okay, I tried to make note of when she actually died. The first official death I wrote is Ruth, Pearl's mom.
Yeah.
See, I wrote that was the first true or attempt and almost death, but I don't think Ruth died until later, after several of the other murders.
I couldn't tell.
So
yeah, maybe you're right. Actually, she may not have.
I don't think she did.
She was down in the cellar, but
right?
I think she was just flopping around.
I scratched it in my notes so many times. I was like 1, 2, and I was like, no, 3 is over here.
But that was the first, I guess we could say, true attack. So we could talk about that anyway.
Yes. Okay. She was attacked first, but potentially died third, I think, on the list.
That's what I think.
Okay. So this comes after we get mom's dialogue at dinner, right? I wrote this as dinner scene number 1 that we need to talk about. Because Ruth has had enough of Pearl shenanigans.
Right.
Yeah.
We get 1, she's had enough. And 2, she knows something about Pearl and who Pearl is deep down.
Yes.
And how, and this was my one quote from the movie that I wrote down. She tells Pearl, "Malevolence is festering in you."
Yes.
Like, how great is that line?
I love that.
I want to start using that for some of the kids I work with. Malevolence is festering in you. It's true. So yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so good. Yeah. So she goes into this whole monologue about just, how hard things have been for her too, what she knows about Pearl. And it turns into like a physical fight, right? If I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah. Because also the mom also tells Pearl, like, I feel like I fail. Like every time I look at you, I feel like I fail.
Oh, that's right.
And then she just loses it. And then it turns into this physical fight. And because they're fighting, the mom, I don't know if she backs up into the fireplace or Pearl kind of pushes her.
I think it's a little bit of both.
A little bit of both, yeah.
I don't think it's fully intentional to light her on fire.
No,
but I think she just is shoving her.
Yeah.
She doesn't realize she's shoving her into the fire.
Right.
The mom backs up to the fire and then gets shoved and then catches on fire. And like the way that she catches on fire, like it's so tiny at first and she like looks back at it and it's almost like she's like, oh, we can get it out. Like, cause it's small at first.
Yeah. It's just like the tip of her dress where it's like, oh, okay. Like this isn't too dramatic, right? Not too bad. And then it just,
the next thing you know,
engulfs.
she's literally engulfed in flames.
And then we just see Pearl dragging her mother's smoking body down into the basement.
Yeah.
Well, and we should say,
Nothing-
like, she throws water at her, like the corn.
Wasn't it boiling water too? Like, I swear
Oh,
they
maybe
showed
it
it
was.
bubbling on the stove. Where it's like, okay,
Maybe
I guess
it was.
it's water. Like, water did help.
Okay, you might be
Right.
right. It may have been.
I swear, I think that water was boiling.
So
Okay.
now she's got
Yeah.
water burns on top of the fire
Yeah.
burns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think this is when there was that cool I tried to look up the term for it, that iris transition. It was the same thing we saw in Dr. Caligari and in
Mhm.
Crimson Peak, where it like they kind of showed like the mom and like smoking, and then it's like the black circle comes to a point and like
Zooming in.
closes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I like that there's so many of the movies that we've seen that have that kind of nod to it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It gives it that old timey feel, which I think is what they were going for in
Yeah.
They
Pearl,
probably
too.
took it from Dr. Caligari.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Like,
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm sure.
Okay, so that's like maybe death number 1, attack number 1 for sure is what we'll call it.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 2, I don't know even if we get his name. We have the projectionist.
The projectionist, I think maybe at first, I don't think we knew his name for the whole movie until the next scene we're about to talk about. She ends up saying something about Johnny. Like Johnny's in the
Oh.
lake or something like that.
Okay, so
So-
maybe Johnny.
Or the projectionist. I like that better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So should we talk about how the projectionist comes to be in this?
Yeah.
movie?
Yeah.
So I think we got to backtrack a little bit. So Pearl's living on this farm. She's very repressed. She's living with catatonic dad, very strict mom. She wants to be a dancer. At one point, she gets sent into town like a
I think
couple
to
of
get
times.
medicine or
get
like
dad's
errands.
Gotta get the
Yeah.
medicine.
Yeah. So she's supposed to get dad's medicine, but she ends up, the medicine is like 10 cents. And
Mhm.
the medicine is 8 cents, but mom sends her in with 10 cents. So she's got 2 cents left over, and she goes and she sees the pictures.
Mhm.
The one picture that she first sees is, because she's obsessed with dancing. That's what she wants to do.
Yep.
And it's all about dancing. And they have this song. It's the Wee Wee Marie song.
The wee wee Marie.
I loved that song so much. I was like, is this a real song? It was just so cheesy.
Yeah.
So she watches the Wee Wee Marie, and then she meets the projectionist. And he's like, hey baby, ever want to come watch these shows? Like, come to the back door.
I'm backstage. Like to see
Backdoor
you in one of
baby.
those films.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Oh, a fun fact for that, the movie that she saw, what was it called? I think it was called like the Palace Follies.
Yes.
Palace Follies, right?
Yeah.
In 1918, all films were silent. So there wouldn't be sound. But I did see some people say online that isn't necessarily a mistake, but Pearl is unwell. So she would totally imagine music playing.
I see.
You know, and
That
I
makes
do feel
sense.
like, I mean, in the movie, we get her like imagination shown, right?
Yeah.
She is on stage and performing and stuff. So maybe not a mistake. She added Wee Wee Marie to the Palace Follies.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, is it imagination or delusion? We'll get into
I-
that in our psych segment. I literally have that written. The second thing in my psych notes is imagination or delusion.
Ooh. Yeah, so
Um,
we meet the projectionist, right? They hit it off.
yeah. So yeah, they hit it off, and he invites her back, but she's like, "Nah, I got to get back." So she rides her bicycle again. Looks like the Witch and Wizard of Oz, riding a bicycle
Absolutely.
to and
Yes.
from town.
That was straight out of the Wizard of Oz.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah. She makes a little pit stop in the cornfield to
Oh,
go
my God.
and hump a scarecrow.
No, we need to talk about this. We are just going to say that. We need to get in. No, it's because she loses the film.
Yeah, the little
Oh,
film.
Picture, like the little
right.
picture she put in her front pocket and
Yeah.
it flew off. That
I-
scarecrow scene,
It was amazing.
Yeah,
I
that
completely-
was upsetting.
so good.
All I thought about is, okay, so some of us are fans of Bo Burnham. and he has this song where he's like making fun of country music. And like in the song where he's making kind of fun of country music, he's like, you know, talking about like this woman who's out in a cornfield with her hands up, and he starts like making out with her, and he's like, oh, it's a scarecrow. And that's all I was thinking about.
It's a good one.
Yeah, that is quite the romantic, intimate scene.
Yeah.
It's
So
so
she,
good.
so she goes into the cornfield. She climbs up where the scarecrow's kind of like posted up on his like pedestal. She brings him down so that they can dance and have this romantic dance together.
Yeah. She's like, may I have this dance?
Yes. And it's actually very sweet, but the mask on the scarecrow is horrifying.
So creepy.
She takes his hat, the scarecrow's hat.
Yes. My favorite part of that though, and I wrote it down, is, you know, they go from dancing to more than dancing, and at one point she just stops and she stares at him and she's like, I'm married, like as loud as she can, like screams it at the scarecrow, and I died.
Mm-hmm.
I died.
Yep.
You just see
the insanity,
unhinged side of Pearl.
Yes.
See, now I feel like she was kind of putting the projectionist into the scarecrow. Like I feel
they show it.
Oh yeah, they do. Okay.
Yeah, because they show him.
Because I think it's like his face flashes on the scarecrow's face, and then that's when she
says, I'm married. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So normally I watch the movies like right before we record, but I think it's been a week and a half, so clearly my memory is gone. But yeah, so then she's like, I think she's kind of wrestling with her sexual desire for the projectionist, with the fact that she's married. So I guess we haven't mentioned that yet. So Pearl's married, but her husband is off to war.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Howard is his name, right?
Howard. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's off to war. So she's just like living at home with her parents.
Mm-hmm.
Super repressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, at some point then she goes back because she wants to see, mom realizes that she was using the extra 2 cents instead of bringing her the change.
Mm-hmm.
She was using it for something that she's lying about. So I think Pearl tells mom like, I got some candy.
Yeah.
But really it was to see the movies. So then she just goes back to the projectionist back door and is like, hey, movie. And he does show her another movie.
Oh, yes.
Sexy movie.
So that is a real movie.
Is it? I was wondering.
Shown, and many people they think this is the first porn film.
Nice.
Like that was ever made. Now, the projectionist does say, I think he says it's from like France, right? Like, in Europe, they're doing all kinds of things.
Yeah.
There is a lot of mystery behind the movie. Like a lot of people have kind of like, so no one knows who's in it. Like no one actually knows the people. They haven't been like credited or anything because obviously it was made kind of secretly. But a lot of people think it was actually made in New Jersey, in the U.S.
Okay.
Interesting.
So, not quite French, but definitely the first American porn film. Mm-hmm. It is known as, what's it called? It's called A Free Ride, also known as a grass sandwich.
I love that.
Oh my God.
And with that, I'll just leave.
A grass sandwich. I will say, for it being the first porn, it's pretty progressive. I mean, it's not just a couple having sex. It's a threesome.
Oh, yeah.
So...
And it's outside. It's like just on the side of the road.
By a tree.
Yeah.
No, it's
grass
pretty sandwich. The old grass sandwich.
So yeah, it's a real movie.
All right. Well, I know what movie is next on my list.
I got next week. Join. That's for Spooky Sips After Dark.
That's for sexy sips. Yes, that'll be our first Sexy Sips movie.
Yes.
Oh, good stuff. I feel like we've gotten away from the kill. So
anyway,
so
the
go
projectionist.
Go back to the projectionist, to his kill.
We got sidetracked by porn. Okay. So
this is after the dinner and everything. I think at this point, Pearl feels like she's free because
Yes.
mom is
her mom's in the
that's
basement.
maybe locked in the basement. Definitely not no, she's alive.
She's alive.
Because she's pounding on the door. Yes. Okay.
Which if you hear any pounding while listening to this podcast episode, we're just trying to recreate that ambiance.
It's just the person that I have trapped in my basement.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. It's the dog. Okay.
Yeah.
Or the neighbor's construction. Either one. We'll leave
one
it up to you
or
to
the
decide.
other.
Yeah.
Or a person trapped in my basement.
So eventually Pearl goes back to the projectionist. She's feeling good. He offers to drive her home. Right? Which is
well, yeah, because she's like I think he kind of maybe wants her to stay, or she leaves early because she's like, I've got to go practice.
yes.
But where did this
audition.
practice happen? Because she's gonna audition in this like church dance competition.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's gonna be her big break. So she's like, I've got to go early. So he offers to drive her home. But then she's like trying to have sexy time with her while her mom is trying to escape from the basement. I keep wanting to say fruit cellar because I think we just watched Psycho.
Oh, yes.
It's in the fruit cellar.
So yeah. So she ends up forgetting to practice. And then he's like starting to catch on that she's cray.
Yeah.
He's like, maybe I don't want none of this.
Yeah.
Okay. And now I'm thinking my order was all borked because she tells the projectionist to wait outside, right? Well, she goes in and gets things ready. Is that when she kills her dad?
No. So the next kill is projectionist.
Okay.
She
And
just
then
puts her
dad.
dad in the room.
Okay. That's right.
She just
And then-
takes her dad away.
Mhm.
And then dad, and
Go in the
then
room.
mom. So I actually think mom might be fourth.
Okay. That's right. That's right.
So-
Okay. We'll just nix all of that.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. So
We're
the
not-
projectionist
we're
is
not
back.
Historians.
No.
That was bad. I was trying to think of another word.
Of something we're not.
Yeah.
We're
not
everything
a
else.
thing.
We're not. Okay.
Is a chronologist something?
A chronologist?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
We're not timekeepers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, okay. I shouldn't have mimosas before we record.
Oh my God.
Good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. Projectionist is now in her bedroom, right? They're trying to have some sexy time, but he hears thumping or
Oh, yeah. And he's like, what is
something.
that?
He's like, what's going on? She's like, oh, it's the dog. Like, don't even worry about it. But he's like, hey, like, don't you have like an ill dad that we should check on maybe, you know? So he goes and tries to figure out what's going on. Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. And she ends up introducing him to dad. Like, this is my dad. But then she's like, oh, come see my barn animal.
Yes. Yes.
So she takes him out there. And at this point, he's seen enough crazy to realize, like, I gotta go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's trying to leave. And then she snaps. She's like, why would you leave? What did I do wrong?
Yeah. Oh,
She just feels rejected.
yeah.
Very.
And it's
Yeah.
almost like he's in that same place where the goose was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because he walks into the barn, kind of like the goose walked into the barn.
Oh, yeah. Same spot.
Maybe we got some foreshadowing there.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't even catch that. That's a good
Yeah.
catch. Mhm.
Poor goose.
Poor goose. Poor projectionist. So she ends up, similar to the goose, she stabs him through the throat
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
with the pitchfork.
Yeah, it's pretty gruesome.
While he's in his car, and then the car
Yes.
drives off because I think he'd already turned it on or
I
something.
think so.
So he is stabbed as the car is just rolling away.
Oh, yeah. It's just driving while he's just like coughing up blood. That
Yeah.
scene was amazing.
So good.
And then at some point, like she like catches up to the car and she's just screaming at him while he's
Mhm.
like dying. And her scream is just it's blood curdling, not in a that she's terrified way, but that she is terrifying. Like,
Yeah.
it's so good.
It is.
For yelling.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wrote OMG.
Yeah.
I just wrote, oh
Yeah.
God.
So then she stabs him one more time. And again, I think this one, maybe the first one she stabbed him through the chest. And then this is the one where she stabs him like into the mouth and it like goes out the back of his throat. Really gruesome.
It's intense.
Yeah.
Very intense.
Yeah.
So then she goes back into the house.
Yes, because she's got a clean daddy because he hasn't been tended to for a while because mom's been in the fruit, not the fruit cellar, the basement.
We'll say it's the fruit cellar. Okay.
Fruit cellar. So she's like covered in blood giving her dad a bath.
Yeah.
Which is really gross.
Yep.
Just completely unhinged. Completely unhinged.
So then she decides to kill dad.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And
his time has come.
I will say that I do feel like her motivation for killing dad is a bit different than mom. And we'll get into this a bit in psych. But she whispers to him before she kills him, "You are loved," and then puts a pillowcase over his head and suffocates him.
It's a more gentle death.
It is a more sort of.
Yeah. I still don't think he wanted to die.
Oh, no.
No.
You know, like obviously we don't get to see a lot of movement or reaction from dad, but I feel like we get it in the eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of like, he's like, I don't want this. I'm afraid.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then this is where I wrote down that we see she dumps Johnny, or AKA the projectionist, in the lake with the gator.
Yep.
Yes.
Keeping Theta well fed.
Yeah. Very well fed.
Note that she does not dump mom or dad in the lake.
No, she wants to keep them close to home.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, those are the other deaths so far. And I feel like before we talk about the next death, we kind of have to talk about what leads up to it.
Right.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So she goes to like the most surreal dance audition I have ever seen.
Yes. Yeah, with her sister-in-law, Mitzi.
Sister-in-law, Mitzi. So Pearl has stolen another
really
one of her mom's dress.
She's so nice.
Like she really wants the best for Pearl.
Like Mitzi is better, okay? She's prettier, she's more talented, she has more money, and yet she is never going to rub that in Pearl's face. All she ever does is try to help Pearl.
Yeah.
Yes.
But Pearl
she was trying to be there for her.
Yep.
But anyway.
So they do this audition. So Pearl is in the audition and she's like dancing her little heart out, just flailing her arms, and she's hearing her own music. And basically the people are like, cool.
Yeah. Wow.
we're going to go another direction.
And they're nice enough about it.
They are nice.
Yeah.
But she just like won't hear it.
Right.
And so she has like the ugliest, realest, rawest cry.
Yes.
Like there's just snot coming out of every pore. Like she's just
she's scream crying. Like
that is what it is.
Scream cry.
It is
like it's her only reason for living is to be a dancer, like a famous dancer. And they've just
this was what she believed was her shot.
Absolutely.
Like this was it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then poor Mitzi. Just trying to comfort her. She's like, let's walk home. I'll come back with you. It's going to be okay. They get back to the house.
And as they're doing that, I just wrote down in my notes, Mitzi, you're going to die.
Yeah. No,
I know.
Yes. Mitzi, we loved you, but you dumb bitch. Come on. Yes. Just go home. Okay. So I mean, I guess before the death, we need to talk about Pearl's monologue, confession, rant,
highlight of the movie for me.
Because I really want to talk about Mitzi's reaction. So yes, talk about Pearl first.
Yes. So Mitzi, again, just trying to be a supportive sister-in-law. She knows something's wrong. And, she's like, okay, like talk to me. Pearl, admits that something's off and she wants to tell Howard something. And so Mitzi's like, let's let's practice.
Practice on me.
Practice on me. I'm Howard. Talk to me. And Pearl is like, okay, yeah, this is a good idea. And she just...
How long was that monologue?
I think it was 7.
I think you're right. I think it was like 7 minutes.
It was
long.
like 7 minutes.
Like uncut. It was
and actually, like, this is the only fact that I saw about this movie is that it was done in like 3 parts, but the last part, the last 5 minutes, they wanted it to be one seamless cut. So 5 straight minutes of it are uncut. Like, that's just fully her. It's
because there might have been parts where they like then pan to Mitzi, but felt like all you were doing was watching the actress who plays Pearl. What is her name?
Mia Goth.
Yeah. Mia Goth. And just a great piece of acting.
Yeah.
Because she's going on about, so she admits she hates Howard, her husband.
She resents him.
She feels jealous. That so Howard and Mitzi come from money. And so Pearl kind of, she confesses one of the reasons she married Howard was to kind of get out of this poverty living on the farm. And Howard rejects his own upbringing and is like, nah, I want to live on the farm with you.
Yep. And then JK, I'm going to go to war.
Yes.
Because Mitzi tells her we had a doctor who was ready to, I think, give him some diagnosis or something so he could have evaded the draft. So he chose to go to war and leave Pearl there.
Yes.
It is. Oh, it's so good. She just lets it all out. Like, not only the resentment, but then also that she hurts things and she's done bad things. Oh,
yeah. So she admits that, it kind of started out innocent enough, but at some point she also admits to that she was pregnant.
Yeah.
And then did the baby just die?
I think the baby just died. I don't think so. Yeah, I think
she
But then she talks about kind of feeling okay about hurting things, and she doesn't really know why.
Yep.
And then she admits that she has this desperate need to be loved. She just needs to be loved.
Yeah.
But that being murderous feels good.
Yep.
So, I think she says, first it started out with animals, and then with mama and the perfectionist and daddy, and
full confession.
Yep.
Just full confession.
And then Brianna.
I just love the sister-in-law's reaction, because she's kind, but she's also
terrified.
Honest. She's like, what the fork?
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what she says, but she's basically like, that's not cool. It's, and she's trying so hard to still be empathetic.
Yeah.
But also I gotta go.
Yeah. Okay. I gotta go.
Okay, so I'm out.
But before she can leave, Pearl's like, I think she says something like, oh, and it's okay that you got the part. If it wasn't me, I'm glad it's you. And Mitzi tries to play it off. She's no, what are you what are you talking about? I didn't get it. I didn't get it either. And she's like, no, it's okay. And Mitzi admits that she did, in fact, get the role in this dance audition.
And that probably seals her coffin.
I think you can see it in the eyes of Pearl. She's just like, oh,
yes.
No.
I don't think it was the fact that she had just confessed murder to her. It was 100% that she got the dance audition place instead of her.
Yep.
So, Pearl ends up chasing Mitzi with an axe.
Yep.
And so poor Mitzi with her cute little kitten heels.
He's trying.
And I love her dress, by the way.
I know.
It's great.
I know.
So she and her beautiful little curls. And so she's trying to run down the pathway, which
she's so bad at running.
If you had seen X,
Mm-hmm.
This part is where it all seemed very familiar. Like it all looked like some scenes that I remember seeing.
Yeah.
Next. So she's chasing Mitzi and she ends up like stabbing her while Mitzi's running.
Like literally stabs her in the back with an axe and then just keeps going.
It's gruesome.
And then we cut to her chopping her body up.
Well, and this is why I think actually Mom might have officially been the last death. Because it cuts between these scenes of like, so you see like, okay, Pearl's chopping Mitzi and then she's like snuggling up to Mom and being like, oh, Mom. And then she's chopping while Mom is dying and like burned mostly to death.
Right.
And then she's like chopping and then snuggling. So it's like this weird counter scene of her doing that. So
agreed. I actually do think Mom is the last.
Maybe Mom was last.
She was like the first murder attempt, but the last to officially die.
I agree.
Yeah. So she was suffering for a while down in that fruit cellar.
Yep. Poor mother.
Yep.
And then after we get this last death, we get dinner scene number 2, as I titled it, where Pearl has brought Mom and Dad back to the dinner table, and
them, right? They're dressed.
Yes, they're ready to go. They're cleaned up.
And she brings the maggot infested pig.
So we had
to the table.
How we first saw this pig was Mitzi's mom, so Pearl's mother-in-law, but when parents were alive, she brought them a pig and was like, hey, I got this pig, you want it?
Very beginning. Yep. Just checking in, see how you guys are doing, bring you some food.
And this mom that's super harsh and stern is just like, I don't want your charity.
So she's like, we do not accept charity.
So they just let it rot on the porch.
And Mitzi sees it. Like when she comes over and she's like, is that the pig?
I think the projectionist sees it too. I think everyone sees the pig.
So throughout the movie, it's almost like as Pearl's anger and murderous tendencies build, so do the maggots in the pig.
Oh yes. 100%.
So by the time it's brought to the table, it is like it's fully decrepit, infested, disgusting.
Yes.
Pig.
She sets it right and like she sets everything up like it's just a regular dinner.
Because I think it's not just the pig that's rotting. I think it's also been all the rest of the food that has not been eaten since she had that fight with her mom before the fire. So it's all this like moldy, rotten.
Yeah, the rest of the food is moldy.
Yeah.
But I guess, I mean, if you're going to serve something to dead people, it might as well be like moldy.
It doesn't need to be great. Okay?
True, it doesn't need to be fresh.
They don't care. It's not going to hurt them.
No, it's not. I mean, what's it going to do? Kill him?
Ba-dum-ching.
And that's it, right?
Well, so then we have Howard comes home.
Oh shit! Because I thought they were going to end it there. I thought that would be the end. Is this weird dinner scene that she sets up? But no. As this weird scene is being set up, we see a truck, like an army truck, arrive outside the house, and they drop someone off, and Howard is home.
Poor Howard.
He walks into the dining room where the dead parents are just like,
because everything is even more decayed than when we saw her set up. So it's
like it's been time,
a while. Yeah.
And then, so I forget if she even says anything, like, I'm so glad I forget what it is. But then it cuts to like the creepiest end credits.
Yeah.
Where she's like, I'm so happy you're home. And she like smiles at the scene. And she's already had some creepy smiles. Brianna, you're doing it perfectly. It's uncanny. And she just smiles. But then through the entire credits, she just like holds the smile.
And she gets shaky.
It makes me think of the Joker. Doesn't it make you think of the Joker
Absolutely.
from like Batman? Like Heath Ledger.
Strained, trying so hard. And then just tears start flowing out of her eyes. Like it is just, It's so and I have no idea how long it is, but it has to be at least like 3-4 minutes long.
Oh, it has to be.
I mean, other than the monologue, again, that's like the scene that's going to stick with me because just that Mia Goth's acting is just like amazing.
Yes. And I watched all of it. Like as she was doing, I just stared at her face, making this awful smile.
Yeah, it's brutal.
So I guess fun fact for that one, that wasn't planned or in the script, but T.I. West just refused to call cut at the end. So Mia Goth just like went with it. And like, I think at one point, I didn't really catch it, but I do think at one point you kind of see her like look over like what's happening, but also maintains the smile. So he kind of like forced that moment. She totally just went with it.
Nice. That's amazing.
I think it was a great ending.
Wasn't she kind of a writer in the movie too? Like
she was.
Okay.
Yeah. So she was credited as a writer for it.
Okay. Because like so she's fully invested, I feel like.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So we can talk a little bit about the making of it. So I guess this whole story kind of started as a joke and like just kind of like a way to prepare for X. Because I did not catch this. Mia Goth plays Pearl in X as well. She is the old lady.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either because there's so much makeup, but she also plays like a different character.
Yes, because she plays Maxine, who's like, regular young Mia Goth. Right. But she plays Pearl, who's the old lady. I didn't know that, but it's her.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so while they were making X, just as kind of like a character prep, I think Mia Goth started coming up with a story for Pearl and who she was and why she was the way that she was in this farmhouse. So they kind of just did it as like character prep. But then during the filming of X, they had to quarantine because it was right as COVID started. And then they had like the mandatory 2-week quarantine. And T.I. West and Mia Goth just kind of did it almost for fun. Like, let's just write the story to see what it would look like. And they ended up writing like basically the whole movie of Pearl. And they pitched it to A24 because both of them are A24 films. And they greenlit the project. They were like, yeah, sure. Like, why not? Like, let's do it. So she was super involved in the making of the movie. Okay. And they started filming Pearl just like a couple weeks after they finished X. So they basically just filmed them back to back.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, which I don't know. I feel like that's cool just to see people who like legitimately just really loved probably doing what they were doing and, just came up with stuff on their own. And it's really fun when, the actors get to play with it because I feel like you can see it. Like she was so invested in the movie.
Yeah.
I think it made her acting even better.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
But yeah, so that's how they came up with the idea.
Because I will say, so this is where I feel like we should probably talk a little bit about X and Pearl. We don't need to talk about it too much because maybe at some point we'll talk about X.
I think we need to.
They are both very good movies and they are both just very unique, I think. But personally, I felt like Pearl was a little bit of a second thought. So knowing the history of how it was made, it makes sense. Like, I feel like X to me, there was just this like je ne sais quoi. There was just this like,
I agree.
X factor, actually. Lack of a better word. Like,
all right, we're doing X and that's going to be the title.
Like it just was, but then Pearl was good, but like I wanted it to be as good as X. And for me, it was not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I have to do something different than we usually do because this has never happened to me. But I really did not like this movie. Like at all.
Really?
And that I feel weird saying it because I am the person who likes every movie. Like I can find something in every movie that I like, and I just didn't like this movie.
Okay, well, what was it?
I thought I would like let us get through like the recap, but I don't. It just it made me feel uneasy, but not like in a good scary way, but just in like a why am I watching this kind of way? Like where is this going? Like what is this movie? Like I kept having these moments where I was like, is this all just about her killing her parents? Like that going to be this whole movie? Like, is there more?
Mhm.
Like, I don't know. It felt like it didn't get anywhere for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't like the watching process.
Okay.
Interesting.
Like, I didn't enjoy it.
Huh.
I wonder if the psych will change your mind.
Yes. See,
Should
and
we-
that's
should we
what I
dive
thought, is
into
because
it?
a lot of times that happens where I won't be like a huge fan. I like the movie, but then we talk about it and I'm like, okay, wait, I think I love this movie.
I do. Yeah.
So I was like, maybe
that
this
happens with every movie.
maybe this podcast, the rest of it will like help me switch a little bit. I just thought I had to say something because that's the first time this has ever happened.
I think when we give our sips, I feel like we're going to have more to say when we rate the movie than I think we normally do, because we do. You have to talk about X. It's a prequel to it. It came out first. You went into it thinking about it, at least all three of us did, you know? Right. So, okay. Yes. I think our ratings will be a little more in depth.
All right. Well,
for now,
into the psych.
Yes.
All right. So I went a bit different this time.
Oh.
And we should give a disclaimer. Brianna, do you want to give the disclaimer?
Yes. Just remember, she is not a real doctor, but it's okay because these are not real people. So she is not diagnosing real people.
Yes.
Everyone.
These are all just opinions for fun.
All fictitious.
So normally I try to get like some overall themes and multiple characters. I did nothing except go just into Pearl on this one.
That's fair.
So this is a deep dive into just the main character. I'm not talking about anybody else.
Sweet.
So I think just some background we have to take into account. So Pearl has this repressed upbringing. She's got this very strict and cold mom, and recently this catatonic father. Mm-hmm. But I almost wonder if maybe he was a bit of an absent father even before he was impacted by the Spanish flu.
Yeah.
And she has just this dissatisfaction with her life. She's got this great ambition, but there's no way for her to reach that in her current circumstances. Mm-hmm. And this is where I had wrote down, does she have wonderful imagination or just is it delusion?
Fair.
No. And then Pearl has also gone through a lot of trauma. We've got World War.
Yes.
We've got a pandemic. Mm-hmm. We have a disabled father. We have the hardship of keeping her farm going.
Yeah.
So poverty, really. I mean, she can't even spend 2 cents to go to a movie because they have no income, really.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to decide if I want to talk about her diagnoses first or parasite. Let's go with diagnoses first.
Cool.
All right. So I've got a couple. So typically a murderer might be diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder. And we've talked about that in some of our prior podcast episodes. Yes. But with Pearl, I'm going a different route, y'all. Ooh. I think she has borderline personality disorder.
Okay.
So Pearl enjoys hurting defenseless beings. She fantasizes about killing her parents.
Yeah.
She's very impulsive in her destruction. She lies. She has repressed sexuality, explosive anger, and resentment. Do we feel like that's all like Pearl?
I think she ticks every single one of those boxes.
So let me tell you about what borderline personality disorder. Now, most people with borderline personality disorder do not become, would you call it parasite? So parasite is the act of killing one's parents. Matricide and patricide is parasite. Mm-hmm. Most people that have borderline personality disorder are not going to perform parasite.
Yes.
However, I think Pearl encapsulates this.
Yes.
So borderline personality disorder, she has this pervasive pattern of unstable relationships with other people, of her own self-image, of her own moods. She has marked impulsivity, which we see with Pearl. She just wants to hurt somebody. She does it. And it begins in her early adulthood, and it's present in a variety of contexts. So She has to have 5 of certain things. I'm going to list the 5 that I think Pearl has. She has these frantic efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment. So I think one of the things she even talks about, she has this need to be loved. In her monologue, she talks about like something in her is missing, but that she also has this like desperate need to be loved and accepted.
Yeah.
She has a pattern of unstable and intense interpersonal relationships, which is characterized by alternating between extremes of either like devaluing the person or idealizing the person.
I think we get a little bit of both. Yeah.
She has some identity disturbance. So she has this unstable image of herself. She is impulsive in at least 2 areas. The 2 areas I feel like Pearl is impulsive is sexual.
Yeah.
And also spending. Like her family is about, like they can't afford food and she decides to spend those 2 cents on the movies.
Yeah.
Like we don't really see it with substance abuse or, you know, other reckless things, but we do see it with like the spending. It is reckless actually, because she's
just kind of selfish.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that gets into my second diagnosis. We also see just this inability to like regulate her own mood. Like she's just extremes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chronic feelings of emptiness. Pearl just feels like she has nothing to live on. So we've already gotten beyond 5, but she's still got them. Inappropriate, intense anger or difficulty controlling her anger.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe like a little bit of that.
So there's a couple things that I didn't go over that would be included in the DSM for borderline personality disorder, but like Pearl has at least gotten 5 of them.
Yeah. Like solidly those 5.
Yeah. So that's what I'm diagnosing her with. Secondary, what I'm also giving her is narcissistic personality disorder. Which we have seen in this, you know, post-Trump world. But basically she has this grandiose sense of self-importance. Like she tells
she's
the cow,
a star.
She's a star.
She is a star. And she is special. Like, and really, when you see her dancing, she's just twirling around a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She's not a dancer.
I mean, no. Yeah.
She's not got this great talent. And she is pretty, but she's not like this great beauty, right?
Yeah.
But she's just preoccupied with these thoughts of like unlimited success. She believes that she's special. And that people can't understand her because she's so special. She requires excessive admiration.
Yes.
She's entitled. She's interpersonally exploitative. So she takes advantage of other people to get what she wants.
Yes.
She doesn't have empathy.
No.
Yeah.
She's envious of others.
Yeah.
And she shows arrogance. So basically she ticks every single box of the narcissistic personality disorder.
I think so. Yeah.
But she's also got that borderline. So I think most people would go for antisocial personality, and she's got a lot of those, but I don't think those are her primary concerns.
I can see that. I really can.
I would also say she has impulse control disorder.
Yeah.
She has these things like she's like, oh, I'm feeling kind of sexy. I'm going to go hump a scarecrow.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like I'm mad. I'm just going to stab someone. Like she just thinks it and does it. She can't control those impulses.
Yeah.
But I think that's because of her prominent borderline personality and narcissistic personality disorder.
I could see that.
Yeah. Yeah. And they do give her like the tiniest amount of self-awareness. You know, I feel like there are a couple times where she mentions like, I think something's just wrong with me, you know, and she tries to blame like, oh, you know, growing up on a farm, you know, like maybe something's just wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
There's like the tiniest amount of self-awareness that something's wrong, but, you know, not much effort to fix it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why I wouldn't give her any other more psychosis type of diagnoses, because she is aware, like she's not hallucinating. She's not out of touch with reality. I mean, she has zero empathy, but she
Right.
also is aware that what she's doing is not right, but only in that how it will affect her.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't care that she's doing wrong because it's wrong. She just cares she's doing wrong if it will then impact her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she likes it, right? I think that was part of it. So she likes that it's wrong.
She likes it.
Yeah.
Or despite the fact that it's wrong, either way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I did a deep dive. Y'all, I read for like 4 hours on so there was a couple main studies. One was by Hilbrand and one was by Myers. They were like 99 to 95. So they're a little bit old, but I feel like they're really like just solid information about parricide.
Okay.
Because I know we talked about it a little bit with Psycho because he kills his mom.
Yeah.
But this is about killing your parents. So I have some information.
Oh, yes, please.
I'd like us to talk through. Okay. So parricide is fairly rare. It's about 2% of all homicides.
Okay. I guess that's good. You know, people aren't just going out and killing their parents.
Right. So you think about like all of the types of murder that there are. Killing your parents is very rare. More often than not, it is men that kill their parents instead of women. It typically happens inside the home.
Oh,
so if you're going to kill your parents, you're going to kill them at home.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most of the time, the perpetrators don't flee, which is really interesting. So most of the time, like the kid that kills the parents stays there. Like they don't like run away. They like have killed their parents and then they're just like, okay, well, here I am. I'm going to deal with this now.
Right.
Yeah. Definitely got that with Pearl.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. She just stays there. Hey, Howard, welcome home.
Hey,
Welcome home, honey.
Want some dinner?
Gross. So the most common methods of parricide in the US are blunt force, stabbing, firearms, or asphyxiation, which we see with Pearl. Okay, would you call it arson? Putting your mom on fire?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. We do see stabbing with pitchfork. And we see asphyxiation. That's how she kills dad.
Yep.
So like weapons are less common in parricide than in other murders, which suggests that parricide is one of those spur of the moment things. Rather than premeditated, it's like this stuff has been building for so long and then they just do it. It's not like, oh, I'm going to go get a gun. I'm going to shoot them.
Yeah.
So there are different motivations. Maybe I should talk about the different types of parricide. Okay, first I'll talk about the different types and then I'll talk about the motivations. So there's two different types of parricide. One is psychotic and one is reactive. So psychotic parricide would happen when the kid has, or the child has a history of chronic psychotic illness. So typically most adults with severe mental illness do not kill a parent. However, if the ones that do typically have this history of the chronic mental illness.
Oh, okay.
They can be delusional about their parents. They're usually dependent on their parents. And they typically suffer just, from this prolonged mental illness that has been evident for years before they actually end up killing their parents. Risk factors. So let's see if we think Pearl has these. Lack of financial independence.
Yeah.
Unemployment.
Yeah.
Dependent, or we talked about this before, enmeshed relationship with the parents. We talked about enmeshment with Crimson Peak. It means they're like they have this like blurring of boundaries.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
I would say yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially with her father.
She has to clean her dad's dirty diapers. Like, yeah.
And the bath.
Yeah,
the
but
bath,
I know that she has to bathe with him. I think that's her choice.
Yeah. Yeah. The diapers are like, okay, whatever, things happen in life. The using his used bath water to bathe in front of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not essential.
That's a blur of boundaries.
Yeah.
A lot of times there's hostility and this dependent aggressive relationship, which I think we see with the mom, not as much.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then typically arguing happens right before the act of the homicide.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Which we see in the mom's murder.
Yeah.
Not so much the dad's. So that's psychotic parricide. Reactive parricide would be, it's not psychotic. It's in response to severe family dysfunction. So like just this chronic intrafamilial conflict, which I do think we have a bit with Pearl, but it's not like she's being abused. Like her mom is harsh.
Mm-hmm.
She has to take care of her dad, but I don't feel like it's this chronic over the top conflict.
Right.
It's kind of just what it was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Typically, like usually reactive killers of parents are in their teens, which I think Pearl's a little older than that.
Yeah.
And they've usually just had a lot of sexual, psychological, physical abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Most abused children do not kill their parents.
Yes.
It's actually really, really sad. If you look at the statistics of how many kids are abused by their parents, it's quite a large number. And then how many kids then kill their parents, it's a very, very small number. So most kids who are abused are not going to go on to kill their parents.
Yeah.
Right? But that can be a motivation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So based on all that, I'm going to say Pearl was going through some psychotic. She did psychotic parricide.
I think so. I think, yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay. So some motives for parricide would be there's the highest reason for parricide at almost 50% is persecutory. How would you say that? Like it's persecution? Persecutory?
Persecutory?
Is that how you would say it?
Persecutory.
All right.
Sure. Persecuty.
Persecutory.
It's like I don't want to stop saying it.
Like that's not a word I've said before, but like maybe that's a word.
Persecutory. There we go.
Sounds like charcuterie board.
Charcuterie.
Charcuterie board.
Charcuterie
shit.
board.
I could go for one of those right now.
That sounds really good. I bet that would pair really well with this red wine.
All right. So charcuterie parricide is the most common.
That's a lot of words.
And that's basically when, you've been abused by your parent and then you are either paranoid or rightfully just worried about them hurting you again.
Yeah.
So you kill them.
Yeah.
That's almost half. About a quarter of parricide is what I think happened with Pearl and Dad. Even though Pearl is murderous, I feel like her motivation for killing Dad was altruistic. Because that happens when there is a chronically ill parent or they are living this life of misery and you're just like, I know you don't want this.
Yeah.
And so Dad I don't think he wanted to be murdered, but at the same time, I think Pearl's true motivation for killing him, I mean, part of it was like she wanted him out of the way, but part of it was you don't deserve to live like this.
I could see that.
Yeah. It was also the least aggressive and the least gruesome.
No, it
all
really
the deaths,
was like
the
most gentle.
Yeah.
And she even whispered to him before she did it, "You are loved."
Right.
Yeah.
Like, so I, as much as I think Pearl is psychotic and a monster, I also think she does in that one tiny area, she had a sense of empathy for her dad and was like, you don't deserve to live like this anymore. And if I'm not going to be around to take care of you, it's just going to be awful for you. And so I'm just going to take you out.
Yeah.
So and then other is the last quarter of reasons.
Anything else.
And that can be like anywhere from attempts to break away from just domineering parents, which we feel like Ruth is.
Yeah.
Being jealous, having impulsivity and rage. That's Pearl. And then personality disorders, which again is Pearl.
Yeah.
Although I will say with Mom, it was almost an accident, right? I mean, she didn't intentionally set her on fire.
No,
it was
didn't.
more like she didn't exactly take her to a doctor to get help or do anything after. But you can almost say it was that one was almost an accident.
I agree.
But I think though she had days to get Mom help.
Absolutely.
And
yes.
So the act of not getting Mom help, that was not the lighting on fire. That was
also back then, there probably wasn't anything they could have done for her. And she probably knew that. Like, not only are they in a pandemic, so the hospitals would be forked, but like there wouldn't have been treatment for burn victims then. Not of that severity.
Point. Yeah. I hadn't thought about that. That's a good point.
And like, I mean, I think not a lot of people are super sympathetic on like Germans, which her mom kind of mentions.
Totally wouldn't have
because her mom almost exclusively speaks German.
Yeah.
To her, like, you know, we're supposed to get that, you know, she's very German, is where she's coming from. So, I mean, I definitely think maybe something could have been done.
Oh, for sure.
And it happened during an argument, but I do think you can almost say that one was an accident.
I agree.
Yeah. Or a little bit like altruistic too, in that like, I'm just going to let you die rather than having you suffer through these hospitalizations where people are just going to discriminate against you. And
or where you'll contract the flu.
And as a bonus, she doesn't really, I mean, she literally tells a projectionist, right? Like, I just wish they would die.
Right.
Like, it was definitely a combo.
So it gets back to those like
her.
It gets back to those fantasies of your parents dying.
Yep.
So it's interesting to like think of if Mom hadn't lit on fire, would Pearl have found a different way to kill her? Kind of like she did with Dad.
Yeah.
Or was it her mom accidentally dying where she was like, okay, now I gotta get rid of my father.
Yeah.
Like if her mom hadn't have died, she may not have killed either of them.
And the projectionist probably wouldn't have died because she would have brought him home.
Right.
Oh my God.
If Mom wasn't locked away,
it's like
almost dead.
It's like what comes first, the chicken or the alligator egg, which we also saw Pearl crush with her hands, we didn't talk about that.
I thought she was going to do something with, because she takes
I thought she was going to eat it.
Hides it. I was like, oh, okay. Is she going to, in my mind, I was like, she's going to raise this baby alligator as a new alligator pet?
Yeah, I thought she was going to like eat it.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, see, I was thinking she was going to like, I don't know, make her like put it in her dad's bed or something, or like do something really fucked up with it.
Hides it just to crush it in her hands later. Yeah.
All right,
Tana's wrong.
I have a couple more stats.
Okay.
So most people that commit parricide do not go on to commit other violent crimes. But with Pearl, we know she does. And that's why she's a bit more than just this either psychotic or reactive parricide. She is, I feel like I'm saying parasite. But she does go on to kill other people. In this movie and then the next, which we know.
Yes.
It's almost like it opened the door. Like killing her parents opened the door.
Yeah.
So like who knows if it ever would have happened if she had. But it's like by killing her parents, it sparks something in her that she could no longer turn off.
Yes. And I think her mom her strictness, I think, came from knowing the darkness that was in her and trying to keep it at bay. So I think by her not being there to, make her go do her chores and, be at home and stuff.
And then I also think, and again, we kind of talked about this codependency relationship in our Crimson Peak episode. I think then what ends up happening, and again, I know this is getting a little bit into X, is her husband becomes this enabler.
Yeah.
So she maybe doesn't go on, at least that we know of, on a ton of killing sprees, but she does not get treatment, which I can talk a little bit about what she should have had.
Oh, yeah.
So, treatment for parricidal people who have killed their parents. For Pearl's case, because I think that she was more psychotic type of parasite, basically hospitalization, institutions for long-term treatment. That would include pharmacological treatment, medications. That would include therapy to reduce her intra-psychic conflict. So she's like, you can even see she's got this conflict between like, she knows what's right, but she doesn't care that it's right.
Yes.
And then she knows it's wrong, but all she cares about is that that's what feels good to her. So kind of like trying to like reduce that conflict that she's experiencing.
Yeah.
Also strengthening of her ego functions. So the theory, I just was reading like all these old school articles.
No, I love this.
The theory behind underdeveloped egos lead to vulnerability for outbursts of aggression. And so underdeveloped egos happen when you have a deprived childhood.
Oh.
And these disintegrated family relationships, which we have with Pearl. So typical functions of the ego would be how you perceive the outside world, your awareness of your own self, your ability to problem solve, controlling your motor functions, which helps people with an X, fine. But your ability to adapt to reality, your memory, how you reconcile conflicts of when you have these outbursts of impulses and ideas.
Yeah, she's not very good at conflict management.
No.
And how can you regulate your affect? Which those are all things that the ego does. And I feel like we see Pearl struggling in every single one of those.
Yeah.
So Pearl, it's not your fault. There's reasons behind why you're doing what you're doing. But if you have these, and this is one of the things that I wrote down in my notes originally, I feel like Pearl is just controlled by these like base instincts and these base drives, like sex and aggression. If you'll have these like lapses of control of your own ego, which will lead to like these primitive violence. And that can result from like traumatic experiences. So if you have these kind of like upbringing where you're not allowed to like be yourself and express yourself, it can kind of lead to some of that. So basically, this deprived early environment can lead to these outbursts of violent aggression if you're like predisposed to that. And that homicide can just serve that like ego form of like this self-destruction. And so like it can displace kind of the aggression that you feel in yourself onto someone else. So like you have this aggression so deprived, and then like releasing it onto someone else, like that's kind of what homicide can serve that function for. So that's kind of like the theory behind some of it.
I feel like we definitely get some of that projecting on people like the projectionist and Mitzi.
And sadly, really people that have kind of this pattern and that do fail to kind of conform to societal norms and that don't show remorse like Pearl, their prospect, I guess, for returning to normal life and reducing their violent acts is quite poor. Especially if they don't get help. So I think that's why, 70 years later or something, we see some problems that have come into Pearl because she did not get the help she needed. And even if she did, it'd be very hard for her to live like a typical life.
Interesting.
That was a lot of things
that was such a good dive. No, there was so much.
That you had to dive.
It was so fascinating to like look up what was going on with Pearl.
No, she deserved a deep dive.
Yeah, she really did. She
honestly,
really did.
It is kind of impressive how much of the boxes she actually ticked.
As we were talking about it, I was like, oh my God, like, did the actors look up some of these
wouldn't
articles?
be surprised.
I do almost wonder.
I would not
like
be surprised.
Textbook almost, but it didn't feel it. When you're watching it, you're just like, this feels right, like what would happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, so good.
Yeah. No, she perfectly fit all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's my psych.
That was a
Loved
good
it.
dive. That was a good deep dive. Okay. Do we want some quick this time in history?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I don't have a lot for this one because the two big things which were mentioned in the movie, everyone was at war and the people who weren't at war were probably sick with the Spanish flu, which started in Kansas.
Yes.
Started in Kansas, everyone. It is not Spanish.
Yeah. Why did it
that.
even get that name?
It was because the first major outbreak was technically in Spain,
Okay.
but the first case was in Kansas.
Yeah.
Here in the
I
US.
remember reading about that.
Yeah.
It's
It should be the Kansas flu.
It's like how a lot of people with COVID or like with our COVID virus,
Yeah.
a lot of, I would say, ignorant people kept calling it a China virus just
Right.
because originally I think that might have been the first case, right?
Yeah.
But that's not where it got.
No,
bad.
that's not like where it
Yeah.
happened. Like,
Yeah. No, in this
It
case,
was a
they just
world
straight up, they were
virus.
like Spanish flu. That sounds right. It definitely
that
wasn't in
sounds
Kansas.
better than
I mean,
Kansas flu.
Here's the thing, though. It sounds sexier than the Kansas flu, right?
It does
Yeah,
sound
it
sexy.
does.
Like, which
Yeah.
one would you rather have? I'd rather have the Spanish flu.
Yeah,
Than the
that's
Kansas
true.
flu.
Yeah, I don't want
Corn
the
flu.
That does sound worse.
I don't want the corn flu.
Anyway, sorry to all of our Kansas listeners.
Oh, we love you,
I'm sure it's fine.
Kansas.
No, we just don't want your flu.
Yeah. So yeah, those were obviously the two big things that were going on
Right.
in 1918. Also, World War I ended
Okay.
right around then, as we get to see as well with Howard coming
Yep.
home at the
Mhm.
end. So in the U.S., Woodrow Wilson was president. I didn't write down who was vice president. I'm not going to guess because
That's
we're
all
not
right.
very good at that. What else is going on in the U.S.? The U.S. daylight savings went into effect. We
Damn.
decided to start doing that.
Get the hell out of here, daylight savings.
Right? Like we don't need it. We don't need it.
BS.
The U.S. Post Office officially began airmail service just with like major cities like DC and like Philly. I feel like we get a lot of post office fun facts on this.
Yeah.
on
I
this
mean,
podcast.
it is my dream. I don't know if spooky sippers know this. My goal in life is to someday work for the Midvale Post Office.
Why?
Wait, you don't know this, Yvette?
I don't know
Oh
this.
man.
How have I not heard? Why is this the first time hearing about this?
This is a real thing.
Guys, this is my dream, and I am hand to Bible if I believed in that. Everyone that works at the Midvale Post Office is hot. They're all hot and they're all happy. I have had some of the best days of my life, days that I have gone into the Midvale Post Office. Everyone is
Yeah.
happy. They are friendly. They are genuine. I just think, I don't know what they're doing there, but like, I want to work for the Midvale Post Office.
I mean,
It's my retirement
how many
dream.
steps do you think they're getting every day? You know, that has to
I mean,
be
I
part
think
of
they're
it.
getting a lot of steps, but also they look like supermodels. Like, I don't understand some of my
Okay.
mail carriers. I should just like upload some videos of my front door camera to show y'all. Like, they are like very sexy people. I don't get it.
They're doing it different out there.
Something is
Yeah.
happening, and I live in this like little suburb outside of Salt Lake City, Utah. There is no reason for
Not a
hot
big
postal workers
place.
to be here.
Yeah.
But they look like they should be on reality TV. They're beautiful and they're all very happy. I don't
Huh.
understand it.
I will say every time I go to my local post office, and like this has been multiple times, every time I go to the post office here in Portland, there is always just the wealthiest group of women who decide to go at the same time as me, because
Ooh.
I will pull up to my post office because for some reason I keep needing to deliver things. And every time I go, I pull my little Subaru, and every other car is just luxury German engineering.
Oh my god.
It'll be like 3 brand new Audis, a G-Wagon, and like a Jaguar, and they all just rolled up to also drop off some mail. And it has been the last 4 times that I've gone to the post office. So I don't live in it's not a good part of Portland that I'm in. So I don't know what these people are doing.
There's something going on.
There is some secret sexy society of the postal office.
Something's going on
circuit that we need to somehow get in on.
I need to start going to the post office.
I'm telling you.
Yes.
Like, people don't believe me, but I'm like, I'm in a good mood today. Why? Oh God, it's because I went to the post office.
Yeah.
Something is happening.
Yeah.
It's
they're so nice. Every time I go to the post, they all have horrible reviews for some reason, but guys, they're trying their best.
No, something makes me feel good about my soul, myself, my purpose in life every time I go to the post office.
Okay.
And it's only this post office though. So maybe this and your rich woman post office.
Who are these people?
I don't know. We got to figure this out. It's a conspiracy. I'm not into most conspiracies, but I'm into this one.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Okay. You heard it here first.
Sorry.
Something's going on at the post office
again.
So that was a tangent.
I don't even know where I was. Let's see what else was there. Oh, I looked up, top films in 1918. This is my last fun fact for this time in history. One is Mickey, not the mouse. It's about like an orphan. Stella Maris was another top movie. The first Tarzan movie, titled Tarzan of the Apes, was released in 1918, and A Dog's Life, starring Charlie Chaplin. All of them silent movies were top 1918.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, on that note, are we ready for a rating? Stop. When you laugh, I laugh. I can't help it.
It's fine. This is a comedy podcast. Sometimes.
Anyways, I was going to say, maybe that's a good segue for our ratings.
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
I love it.
Spooky Sips, we don't give stars, we give sips. So, ladies, out of 5 sips, how many are you giving Pearl?
This one was kind of a tough one to rate for me. I can go first. And I'm going into this not having a rating already in mind.
Okay.
Because I loved the demented Disney princess. I actually really enjoyed that this movie started, and I immediately caught that. Like that, I wrote it down immediately. I was like, she is a Disney princess. She's wishing upon a star. It's great. But you have to compare it to X, just because I watched it and I went into it expecting it. It's this, it's the same main actress, same director, writer, etc. And I don't think it was as good as X. I think for me, it was also very slightly long. While I liked the monologues, I think Mom's monologue could have been a little shorter, and I think Pearl's monologue could have been a little shorter. I think any movie over 90 minutes needs to earn its length. And this one was like, you could cut like a little bit, maybe. Like a little bit. So I think for me, I think this is like a 3.5 sips out of 5. 3.5. I enjoyed a lot of it, but I think there were things that could have been better.
Okay.
So there's so many parts of the movie that I did love. Like I love the monologue. I love the colors. It just did not live up to my expectations. So I'm giving it a 2.5.
Okay.
I know that's a little low, but I don't know. I would watch X again. I wouldn't watch Pearl again.
Yeah.
Like I really liked her in it, and I loved the discussion we've had, but I feel like it just slightly missed the mark for me.
Yeah. This did make me want to watch X again.
It did make me want to watch X.
And if any, I do think it makes X better.
Yes.
Because you get more background.
Yep.
So, but again, that doesn't say much about Pearl. If anything, that makes X better.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So I don't know. I'm torn because I really didn't like this movie. So
that's all right.
I think like I almost want to give it a 1, but that might be too harsh. So I'm going to give it a 1.5.
You give it what you want, girl.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a 1.5.
Do you want to expand any more on why you think it gets the 1.5?
I think because for me, I can find something that I enjoyed about a movie. Like I enjoyed watching it. So like, even if it wasn't the best movie, even if it didn't come together perfectly, like there were components that I enjoyed out of it. Like this one, I just did not enjoy the
I
ride.
love it.
Like I just didn't enjoy the ride. So I think like I probably will never watch it again. And I don't even know if I would recommend it.
Yeah.
And for me, that's the real test is like, there are some movies where I'm like, okay, this wasn't my favorite movie, but I would recommend watching it. I don't think I would recommend this to people.
Yeah.
I just don't think I would. So
I do think out of the three, or at least more than me, I think you just enjoy horror, like the actual genre of horror movies. We do a lot of spooky movies, which includes a lot of things, you know. I do think Pearl is not scary. It's not,
and
scary.
I love horror.
Yeah, so I wonder if that's part of it. Pearl is not. There was one jump scare that I noted, which I think was when she goes into the corn, a crow pops out, and we get like a little jump scare, and that was fun. I liked it, but I think that was kind of it in terms of moments where I felt scared.
No, you're right. I think
it's not a scary movie.
Even the gore was repulsive, but not scary.
Yeah. And I think part of it was the technicolor of it all, the Disney-fying of it. It makes it not scary. It's you know, where like, instead of getting like a juxtaposition between the colorful and super scary, I don't think we got scary dark enough.
Agreed.
You know?
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's kind of why for me it's also below that 3, which would be a go watch it.
Yeah. All right. So next time on Spooky Sips, we are going to watch What Lies Beneath. And we will also have our very first guest star. Ooh. So tune in next time to see who our special guest star is and watch What Lies Beneath if you haven't seen it yet. That one, I can already say, is a great movie. So get watching and get sipping.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Spooky Sips. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening. To stay up to date on all the spooky things we're up to, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at SpookySips_podcast. And if you want to help support the podcast, consider buying us a coffee, or really a cocktail. We are completely independent, so every little bit goes a long way to keeping our podcast running and improving. Thanks again for listening.